It's time for Agriculture, presented by Turkana Farms in Germantown, New York, a small-scale producer of heritage breed livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres. They also produce a full array of garden vegetables, many of them heirloom varieties raised naturally, as well as an assortment of berries, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberries, black, red, and white currants, mulberries, and elderberries. And now, here's Mark Scherzer.
When I reflect on why I find farming such a compelling activity, I always find myself returning to the insight I had after our very first season 2 whole decades ago. The entire endeavor seems to me to center on trying to impose order on a chaotic world, on beating back the forces of nature that constantly threaten one's schemes. Our carefully cultivated tomatoes grow where and how they want to grow, not necessarily in the regimented order we want them, such that I constantly see Victoria in the garden cutting back the rampantly growing side shoots. Sheep and turkeys have their own ideas about where to wander and graze, no matter what pastures we designate for their use. Last year, when the turkeys were here, managing jailbreaks was a daily routine. And just ask Troy about the challenges of herding our Freedom Ranger chickens into safe pens at night. Even more challenging than managing our cultivated crops is battling the incursions of an unintended guests. Weeds like amaranth spring up among the beans and within days of appearing seem to grow big enough to shade them out, while fast-growing vines like bindweed and bittersweet twist around and choke whatever cultivar they can get their tendrils around. Invading pests from groundhogs to rabbits, and predators from cabbage borers to hawks, kill and eat what we've carefully raised to kill and eat ourselves. Whatever romantic notions you may have that sustainable farms exist in harmony with the natural world around them, the truth is that the inhabitants of that natural world spend their lives scheming to take advantage of our labor and steal its fruits. In short, disorder threatens our productivity at every turn. On the small family farm, where there are so many simultaneous projects going on, the challenges of beating back these forces of chaos multiply. And in contrast to the 19th century farms on which our culture bases its small farm mythology, today's small family farms come with small families, too. Never enough hands to do all the work that needs to get done. I find myself talking up the idea of marriage to Troy and Victoria. I'm not sure how much of my blunt nudging is because their relationship already seems so healthily married, and how much is because I think that commitment would enhance the likelihood of children, the helping hands they'll need in the long term. You might think about children as agents of chaos, but I can think of dozens of ways in which, properly trained, they could help bring order. One which has been occupying a lot of my attention of late is weeding. Nothing exemplifies the beating back of nature more vividly than the act of weeding. If I could choose a single task on the farm I'd be happy to do full time, every day, weeding would be it. In fact, weeding in my book beats most leisure time activities I can think of. Definitely ahead of word games on the phone, unquestionably ahead of recreational shopping. Beats most movies. I'd say it's nearly as much fun as cooking and eating with friends. Does it beat romance? Well, probably not, but let's say weeding would be a great way to get down in the dirt together. And what do I like so much about weeding? Well, for one thing, it's doubly productive because not only does it remove plants that threaten what we want to cultivate, but the weeds become feed for the chickens and enriches their eggs. Weeding is satisfying the way painting a room is satisfying because I can so clearly see my progress, and the contrast between before and after is so striking. And it's centering because it requires enough attention to be mindful of what I'm pulling, but not so much as to interfere with thinking about things I really need to think about. Hence, a way to be alone in my head with my thoughts, a sort of meditative break from the rest of my life I don't often get. But perhaps what's most satisfying about weeding is the way it undoes chaos and restores order. It puts things in their proper place. Sure, it's limited in scope to the little patch of wildness that has been beaten back, but that's the patch I've focused on and achieved a little victory over. To behold the weeded patch is to have visual proof of that victory. This is the time of year when some people abandon their gardens to the weeds. At the end of August, after a summer of continuous, overabundant rain, it can be easy to simply surrender, but we keep on weeding. Why? In the ornamental gardens, the areas we've most neglected while priority has necessarily been given to productive farming activities, I'm driven in part by guilt. I can only think how dismayed Peter, who devoted such efforts to building the gardens, would be at their appearance, should he return. I therefore try whenever I can to at least keep the structure he planned apparent and the flowers in seasonal bloom visible. In the vegetable garden, we have to keep in mind that the next 4 to 6 weeks are perhaps the garden's most productive time, and make sure to maximize our revenue for the lean season to come. But in a more fundamental sense, we simply cannot give up the battle against chaos. Our newly wet climate promotes natural chaos that farmers will have to continually combat, so this is no time to let down from a farm perspective. But it also feels like we're living in a society run amok, caused in no small part by a head of government who is a prince of disorder. Trade wars, broken alliances, culture wars, the war on science, racism, cronyism, corruption, the dismantling of government, and the shattering of civility. Chaos on so many fronts it sometimes seems impossible to bear. Except when I weed, and it centers me. Dr. Pangloss might say that all this chaos was created just so I'd end up taking refuge and solace in weeding on the farm. But I'm not sure I'd say weeding makes everything right in the world. It just makes me feel better.
Agriculture is underwritten by Turkana Farms, LLC, a small-scale producer of heritage-bred livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres in Germantown, New York. More information, 518-537-3815.